Hello, my name is Jeremy, this is Red Means Recording, and I recently came across this old, gigantic sort of like live electronic music set that I made in Ableton when I was sort of trying to transition from DJing to playing more of my stuff live. It was this gigantic just mess of a live set that I did perform a couple times, and it was kind of weird coming across it and just sort of going down memory lane with it. And I thought it might be kind of fun to share it with you, talk about how I approached it, perform a little bit, and then I'm going to throw up the whole set on Patreon for people to pick through. So we're going to be using Push and Ableton to talk about some of the ways that I approached and thought about putting together a live set. So yeah, that's what this video is about. Check the link in the description if you want to download the whole thing to check it out yourself. But yeah, let's jump into it. Maybe we'll learn something. I don't know. What do you want? So I got the idea that it might be fun to take a whole bunch of the tracks that I had made for various things and split them up and make them into something that I could play back live. This eventually became the set or the album called In Control that's on my Bandcamp. I performed this and then did production on the arrangement view to create the album, which is like a seamless mix of like remixes and stuff like that. So as you see here, I have in front of me a Push 2. We'll be using this to navigate through our thing and talk about clip launching and shit like that, which is a big part of this. So when I did this set originally, I was using a Launchpad and a BCR 2000 from Behringer, which is this gigantic knob controller that you can assign all the knobs via MIDI to things. And if you go into my MIDI mapping here and I open this up, you'll see that all these CCs are mapped to things. And that's because I had a custom MIDI map set up on the BCR 2000 that let me dig in and get to all the like effects that are in here. We have these custom effects racks, which you'll be able to grab from the Patreon set if you want to grab it there. And these all do really, really fun things. This is a really big part of the performance. We'll get back to these in just a second. Let's talk about like the actual like clip thing going on here. So if I double click into one of these, you'll see that this is actually like the full track. Like it is all of it. Like each one of these is like usually a full track. There are some cases where like some little bits are isolated, but basically I exported stems from all my tracks and then I created these partitions for each section. And if you look over on the right here, you can see that I've labeled things. So we have like verses and choruses and stuff like that. So that's one way you can approach taking your own stuff and bringing it into a more live setting, is exporting stems and then isolating sections of those stems so that you can launch full sections. The Launchpad and the Push both have the ability to launch things in a complete row like this, which is nice. And then you can launch individual clips and stop individual clips, which is really, really important. You'll notice on the screen that we have 8 channels, left to right. And then if you count the number of slots that are available from top to bottom, that's what we see in this red little window that we can move around. So we do have to keep that in mind as we're putting our clips in there, because one of the things that I like to do is be able to stop clips. And if you have every single clip full here, then you won't be able to like stop your kick to create like a little vibe. Well, we are really fast right now. You can see that I've written the tempo for the track up here. And I do that whenever there's a tempo change or a key change. And that way I can sort of manage my tempo up here to make sure that I'm right around the same vibe that these originally were written in. Sometimes Ableton's warping can actually be a little weird when you're really close to the original tempo, but not quite. So I do try to keep that in mind. So when you're thinking about how you're going to arrange this stuff, you have a few choices. And the first 2 tracks in this are really good examples of how I approached it. The first one is this really classic, like sort of section thing. So you can see like we have an intro verse. I've got a feeling. And if we go into the vocals, we'll see it's a pretty long section. This pad intro that I'm about to click is meant to come in halfway through this. And you can see I just sort of have it isolated on its own. I'll be your witness. It's true. So I'd let this play out. And I might like stop the drums
about you,
or something like that, and then start the next section. Leads here has a section for the Rhodes to come in. You can see that it's what, like 4-8 bars or something like that, and then the Rhodes is going to come in. So I try to make it really, really obvious what is happening in the thing, because unlike DJing, you actually are fully in control of the progress that this track is making, which honestly is a little daunting. Like, it's kind of dumb to put yourself in a position where you could just like DJ these tracks, but you have to like keep track of literally everything going on. And if you don't push a button at the right time, the track doesn't progress. So when you're dealing with progressive material like this, you're going to have to like make sure that you're paying attention to what's going on. Otherwise, people are going to be like, why did this section of the song just repeat? So as we move down, I have different sections of the track. And that's how this one is set up. As I start to get into the next section, it's the next song. So let's start this one. Over on the left, you can see in the drums that I have intro drums shuffled and then quantized. And that's because I'm about to go from a 6/8 feel into a 4 on the floor normal house feel. So this is transitioning, right? I have this. So this is transitioning, right? I have this gap in between. So this is how you can think about transitions. You have one track and you want to go into the next. What can you start switching out so that you do a seamless transition between the two? Well, I can hit the kick and the drums and keep everything else. And now I'm on my way into the next track. And then after I've let that play for a bit, I could bring in the bass. And it still feels nice and coherent. Over here, I have a rise. And I'm going to use this to transition. So that was a little sharp. I probably would have brought in only a few things. That rise is going to keep on giving me an opportunity to transition. Now you can see that the rise stopped playing. That's because I don't have it set to loop. I just want it to occur once. So this track is actually meant to be jammed on. I'm a little rusty on the set. I haven't seen it for like almost a decade. But basically, like, these sections here are meant to be more played. With the little jazz parts up here, these little... Let's go ahead and stop stuff. So these little friends right here. So you can give yourself these little sort of like jam sections where instead of having to move progressively down a list of sections, you can just kind of play around. And I felt that having at least a few of these interspersed between these much more sort of rigid arrangements was really, really, really fun. So let's talk about what's going on in terms of the tracks. Kick, which also is in some cases loops. But basically anything that really represents the low end. Drums, which are going to be top loops. Anything that's not the kick. Bass is pretty self-explanatory. Each track has a bass. synths and leads and pads, these are kind of mutable, but I do try to keep them somewhat similar, because basically like what I'm going to be doing is moving through different types of energy with each addition or subtraction of a particular thing in here. So when I'm exporting my stems from the original tracks to put into here, I'm making decisions about what I'm going to put in each section. So once you've kind of come up with your like 8 tracks, when you go to your tracks that you're going to involve in these sets, you make decisions about grouping things so that you can fit them into this 8-channel thing. And the reason that we're going to stick with 8 channels is because I don't want to have to move off this screen to make decisions about what I'm playing. I want everything to be in front of me as much as possible. I do not want to like get confused at all about what I'm seeing. And that's just because like you're going to be concentrating really, really hard, and what you see is what you want to get in the most part. Okay. And then effects are going to be risers and stuff like that. In some cases we have like full on just sort of white noise things that can hang out in the background. Some of these are set to loop. Some of these are not set to loop. And again, that's because sometimes you want to just be able to hit an effect, have it bring you into the next section, and then it's going to stop playing. And that's how I created sections. I could, of course, jump into a completely different track. I don't have to go in order if I don't want to. So let's talk about effects. So this is where the BCR 2000 really, really showed its worth. I have these collections of effects chains you can see down here that were sort of collected over the period of time, and they all do really, really interesting things. Let's go ahead and listen to what they can do to some drums here. Distortion. This really cool sort of vocoder effect. Reverb. And delay, this awesome dub send. Bit crush, radio effects. And then there's another one that has flanging, another echo, a chopper, beat repeat, turntable, a comp which I don't really use, a sidechain which I do use. It's not really a sidechain, it's faking one, but man, is it useful. And then a DJM style filter, Pioneer style filter, which is also really, really useful. This is actually, I believe, the X for DJM filter, and I'll include that in the upload to Patreon so you can have that, because it's just like high pass over here, low pass over here. So the issue is, do you see this little flange? You need to stop down. There we go. Turn this down. Do you see this little hand here? Well, by default, Ableton wants to assign a controller with 8 knobs to focus on what you are currently looking at. And push gives you a fair amount of control over deciding what you're looking at in here. You can see this on the interface here. I can see my combo rack and my 8 knobs, and then my finalizer, which is basically just a collection of like compressors and stuff. The issue here is that like I want to be able to control all of these at once, and I want them all laid out for me in front of me. So basically I want like a big collection of things like volume and sends and all the effects that I want to be able to mess with. So that I can actually perform. And when I did in Control and when I did perform with this, those effects were such a big part of having fun, because, basically I'm kind of just DJing a lot of stems. So the reason that you would want a big collection of knobs want to get involved in this thing is because you can individually MIDI map any one of these knobs to a controller with a bunch of knobs. When you are stuck in this sort of like, focus view that Ableton does with this little hand, you don't get a chance to move into different tracks. You're stuck in one track, basically. Like, you are completely stuck in the track that you see in front of you, and it's hard to get a bird's eye view and bird's eye control of multiple things. Like, if I wanted to filter something over in the leads and do something to the kick, I couldn't. And that's frustrating. One of the other cool things that's on this kick is this one that generates extra drums using, I believe, the vocoder. So let's check this out. Sort of roll a bit. And then I've got this wash, which is really nice. So just these power moves you can make in your production, which are really, really useful in shaping everything. And having access to these on a big knobbed controller in front of you where you can just like get in and tweak is really, really fun. And that's what I'm missing. Unfortunately, my BCR 2000 is dead. It's been dead for a while. It's very sad. What I did was, before I filmed this video, these actually were all sort of sitting in their own rack, because I didn't need to worry about the placement of these things, because I had, them all MIDI mapped to that multi knob controller. It didn't really matter, like, if they were like, visible in a particular way in this interface. But what I want to show you is that you can make this a bit easier for you if you want. So here's the leads channel, and you can see that we have these individual effect racks, and then these sort of like finalizer things. So what I'm going to show you is how I kind of like got over this this issue a little bit. I'm going to call this finalizer. What I want to do is make this as easy as possible to find individual effects and be able to process them here on my push. So I'm going to take distortion and glitch lead and the MFX1 thing here, and I'm going to group them all together. And what this does is it gives us the ability to assign macros within macros. So in distortion, this macro is doing something, this is doing something, these are all doing something in a big rack that's hiding underneath here. But what we're going to do is we're going to make an endpoint for these. So I'm going to say map to macro 1. It's going to ask me if I want to do this because I already had stuff mapped to CC numbers. Again, because I was using the BCR 2000. So yours won't say that if you try to do this. So I'm going to make sure that all of these are up here at the front. And you might have to do this a couple times depending on how many levels deep you are. But this will help immensely. And if you were able to get this down to like one rack, one effect rack per channel, then you could really like, move around very quickly. But unfortunately, that wasn't possible for all the effects that I wanted. You could totally pull that off though. You wouldn't really need like multiple racks if you didn't want. So now we have 2 racks, and let's go ahead and rename this lead rack 1. And on push here, I have lead rack 1 and 8 knobs. And now I can move between them as I need to. So you can see just with a few knob turns how much we can change the sound here. And if you're doing different types of music, like these are incredibly powerful tools to have to like actually play live. Like effects can be enough sometimes. So if I was going to redo this approach, I'd probably not try to do full-on songs, and I would instead do more atmospheric kind of stuff where the effects really played the biggest part in it. So yeah. So I guess that's another example of a transition, right? Mixing and matching elements. It does not hurt that these two tracks are in the same key. And you can see that I've taken this pad here from the track that was above it and fit it into here. So they all go together. Same thing with these effects here. I've made decisions to use parts of one track with another, which works really, really well. I think it's neat. Really, I'm hampered here by the lack of ability to dig into my effects and really perform. That's what makes this fun to me. I have no interest in just sitting here triggering clips. But yeah, it's still kind of fun.
I can fly like a bird.
Okay. Let me think if there's anything else that I have missed. I do have, let's see. The sends are set up here. I haven't really talked about them at all. They're acting as some pretty basic effects sends. You can see that we have our effects sent to a little bit of reverb and a little bit of delay. The delay has an auto pan on it. Our final channel here has some compression, some multiband dynamics to add a little bit of girth to the signal, and a limiter, which I currently have turned down so that, we're not blowing our ears out. And that's pretty much it. It was fun to put together, and I'm really glad what I got out of it. But I don't know. I feel like if I was going to approach this again today, if I was going to try to do full-on songs, then like songs that I had written that I needed to recontextualize for a live setting, then this would not be a bad way to do it. And I would just make sure that I had access to my effects so I could really get in there and perform. So again, I'll release this onto Patreon. And for those of you that have access to that, let me know what you think. Tell me if you have attempted anything like this, how you went about doing it. Am I crazy? Was this stupid? Does anything matter? Is there meaning to being alive? These are the things I would love for you to let me know in the comments. And let me know if you want me to try to perform this again because it's actually kind of fun. I just need to get a controller with some knobs. So if y'all have any suggestions about a very knobby controller, if it's like DIY, that's fine. I don't mind some soldering. Let me know because I think it'd be kind of fun to do a performance of this. That's it. I hope that was informative. I feel like just sort of like only talked about it a little bit, but effects, preparation, chop up your stuff, make decisions about buses and groups so that you can only have like a few channels that you have to worry about. Make sure that things are well marked and that you really have everything you need to succeed in a high stakes situation, and then practice the fuck out of it because practicing is going to really wring out a lot of the possible mistakes that you may make. And when I came up with this whole thing, I practiced so much to figure out where the pain points were, and then I worked on those. So yeah, thanks for watching. My name's Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Yeah.